How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to the Change-Up. Baseball has a problem. I think that's become apparent to most people, but recently it's becoming even harder and harder to ignore. For those of you who have been living under a rock, the Dodgers just recently signed Kyle Tucker to a whopping 4-year, $240 million contract, which makes him the highest paid player by AAV of all time. Now, regardless of how you might feel about the signing, baseball is undeniably in a rough spot right now. The mere fact that the trending phrases on Twitter after the signing were salary cap and Rob Manfred pretty much tells you all you need to know. And while fans continue to go back and forth on whether a salary cap or floor or nothing or both would be better, the common theme seems to be discontent within Major League Baseball. So what's really going on here? Who's to blame for all this turmoil? Is it the Dodgers, the other cheap owners, or MLB itself? Is baseball already beyond repair? Well, first of all, no, I don't think baseball is beyond repair yet, but I think it's getting scarily close to seeing some long-term repercussions from these types of headlines. You see, sports are built on something I like to call the illusion of chance. It's the idea that as long as people believe their team has a chance to win, they'll follow the sport far closer than they would without. That's why you'll see significant decreases in both televised and in-person viewership when it becomes clear that a team will not make the playoffs. Because aside from some hardcore fans, nobody really wants to watch a team that isn't going to be playing in October. So why is this relevant now? Well, usually, unless it's a historically bad team, most teams are at least vaguely close to a wildcard spot or a playoff berth for much of the season, especially in the modern age. Meaning that team will continue to get that what-if audience for a good portion of the year, which is a critical part of MLB's viewership. You see, the problem at a basic level with what the Dodgers are doing is that they're currently so good that it begins to feel pointless to watch, because you feel like you already know they'll win and your team won't. This effectively destroys the illusion of chance before the season even starts, instead of somewhere post-All-Star break. This is objectively bad for competitive sports. Now, as we've seen at times in football with the Chiefs and in basketball with the Warriors, these villainous teams can help to spike viewership for a little bit, as long as they don't stay good for too long. People who aren't Chiefs or Warriors fans will tune in to see these teams they hate lose. But if they're in the finals every year and they never do lose, the hatred will quickly turn to boredom. Other sports circumvent this because success isn't sustainable. You can't just spend infinite money in basketball and football, so there will inevitably be a point where those teams won't be good anymore. In baseball, there's no such thing. The Dodgers can theoretically spend as much money as they want, and nobody can stop them, which is the main concern. Now, this all may sound a bit dystopian, but I promise it isn't all doom and gloom. There just seems to be this theory that what the Dodgers are doing is not only not bad for baseball, but it's actually good for baseball, and I wanted to dispel that notion. Objectively speaking, one team signing the best players every year is not good for a sport that relies upon competition. But is it really the Dodgers' fault? Now here's where I diverge from the crowd a little bit. I currently think baseball is being ruined in a lot of ways, but I ultimately don't think the Dodgers are fully to blame. You see, the Dodgers aren't breaking any rules. They're taking advantage of the fact that they have a great market in LA, a very generous TV deal, and that there are certain loopholes they can use to their advantage. Look, the truth is that, at least in my opinion, baseball desperately needs a salary cap and floor, and some serious reworking of deferred contracts, and that this should have been evident years ago. The second Shohei Ohtani signed for 10 years $700 million with $680 million deferred into the mid-2030s, there should have been some dialogue within the company that maybe things are starting to get out of hand, and a salary cap realistically should have been implemented decades before that. The reason I say that is that baseball is a sport that already doesn't have the same competitive balance that a sport like basketball or football has. When you look at the aforementioned Chiefs or Warriors, both teams were good for a while until the players that the money was committed to got older. By the time that happens, the team's draft picks have also suffered, meaning that they still have money committed to the now older players and that they can't get as good younger prospects because they've been picking further back in the draft. This is necessary to keep things fair in sports, as one team can't just dominate for a decade by getting great young talent on top of their already great team. When you look at baseball, you'll notice two things. For one, obviously, there's no salary cap, meaning that the Dodgers won't ever really be weighed down by the contracts of aging stars, because they make enough money to just sign new players anyway. And secondly, the draft isn't nearly as important in baseball as it is in other sports. Why? Well, for one, prospects are just less of a surefire thing in baseball than in other sports, but also because there's an entire separate pipeline of young talent that comes into teams via the international market, which is completely unaffected by going over the luxury tax or wins and losses. This means, coupled with the absolutely insane deferrals as stated earlier, the Dodgers can effectively just remain in this cycle and be good forever. See, the Dodgers can already outspend almost every other team in the sport even without deferring money. The notion that the Dodgers owners just care more and that all the other owners don't spend as much because they don't care is just wrong. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of shitty owners who don't care in baseball, but if you think the Reds owner, worth about $400 million, could spend like the Dodgers, who currently have $2 billion committed to their roster, then I don't know what to tell you. But none of that is really the Dodgers' fault. They aren't ruining baseball by spending the money they have. MLB is ruining it by allowing it to happen unrestricted. And while the millionaire players are arguing with the billionaire owners about a salary cap and floor, the fans are the ones that are really getting screwed. We're the ones probably missing games in 2027 because they're arguing over wealth that most of us will never see in our lives. And I've seen the argument that a salary cap would only increase owners' profits, and okay, if that makes baseball a better product to me, the fan, as a result, what do I care if a billionaire pockets more money? Don't get me wrong, I'm far from being pro-billionaire, but as it is now, that extra money is just funneled into a millionaire anyway. And regardless, a salary cap and floor really wouldn't limit spending as much as everybody thinks. There will still be teams that spend more and teams that spend less, but the difference between them will just be a bit smaller. Again, objectively speaking, when you have a sport in which some teams' payroll looks like this, and others look like this, something needs to be changed. The baseball media landscape right now is flooded with former players and fans of large market teams saying the current system is fine. And I'm here to say, as the fan of a large market team, that just isn't the case. The system worked okay for a long time, but at the pace we're currently going at, it's becoming unsustainable. Just look at it this way. The Miami Dolphins rank around the middle of the pack when it comes to attendance numbers in the NFL. The Miami Heat attendance numbers are typically fantastic in the NBA. And the Marlins? Bottom tier. Why is that? Is Miami just not a baseball town? I mean, maybe not, but why would that be? It's a major city with significant Dominican, Venezuelan, and Cuban populations. Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that their team constantly ranks bottom 5 in terms of payroll, because their owner refuses to spend money, and even if he did, he has a net worth of about $500 million, which would mean that if he liquidated every asset he had, he'd be able to pay about 70% of Shohei Ohtani's contract alone. So what's the solution? Salary floor, making it so that he has to spend at least some money and field a competitive team, and then a salary cap, so that the Dodgers don't have this massive monetary advantage that other teams don't have. Then you change the rules regarding deferrals. They're great when it comes to smart roster construction, but they aren't supposed to be a way of putting off paying nearly the entirety of the richest contract in baseball history until a decade later. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. What the Dodgers are doing is certainly a bit lame, and it's kind of the equivalent of swinging 3-0 in a 13-2 game, but as you'll come to know about me, I don't really mind a guy swinging 3-0. If it's not against the rules, it's ultimately hard to say the Dodgers are ruining baseball alone. This is really on MLB for allowing it to happen. And as usual, they're too busy trying to throw a band-aid on a bullet wound, and it's led us here. So we will see what happens. But congratulations to the 2026 World Champion Los Angeles Dodgers, and hopefully we'll have baseball in 2027 to watch them go for a four-peat. Thank you everybody so much for watching, it really does mean a lot to me. If you like these types of videos and want to see more like them, please make sure to like and subscribe, I do videos like this all the time. And of course feel free to comment your thoughts below, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, as I said, we as the fans are the ones that are losing in this situation, so I'd love to get some other fan perspectives as well. And with that, as always, I will see you in the next video.